Hi, and welcome to the Studio of Art by Wendy. Today I'm focusing on your line drawing. I have a few tips that should help you with getting the perspective right the first time. Today I want to use those California poppies there to show you some things that I think about when I'm drawing in order to get my line drawing correct. So the first thing I do is I look for a basic shape. And in this case for the poppy, we have this sort of pot or bowl here with a V shape. So I'm going to draw that V shape and then take a look at what I've drawn and see if the perspective is correct. Now, first of all, looking at the inside of this bowl and comparing it to the poppy, I can feel that it's a little bit too narrow and I need to kind of drop this one. This one looks pretty good, but this one needs to be dropped a little bit. So I'll drop it just a bit. And then I'll take a look at the bottom and have a look at this size here. Now, what can I compare it with? Well, I could compare it to the side here and just sort of, does it look to be about 3 times that size? And so my eye will kind of flip that over and it does look to be about 2.5, maybe 3. These kind of conversations you want to have with yourself as you're drawing and comparing. When I look to see, does both sides have equal size? And they're not. This one looks to be higher and then this side over here. Even the one in front seems to be a little bit higher than this one. So just by drawing this shape, I've already determined what's happening with the rest of the flower and the petals. So I just took a minute to darken my drawing, and now I'm going to start on the next section. So looking at the poppy again, and I'm thinking about the middle here, there's nothing comes to the middle. When I look at this poppy here, this petal seems to be rippled, and it kind of stops about here. And what I'm looking at is I kind of bring this line down, and you can see it kind of stops in this area here when you look at the picture itself. So now I'll go over to the other side and draw this middle petal. It's going to be touching here, and it kind of curls down, and then it comes down and around and sweeps up like that. I'm not worried about if the line is perfect right now. I'm just trying to get the impression. I can see that it's going to go up and it's going to come over to here, and it's higher than this. Not a lot higher, it's a bit higher. And again, those are words that you need to keep reminding yourself. Is it 2 times more? Is it a bit more? Is it a touch more? Those are the vocabulary that you're going to be having with yourself. So now once I work on this particular petal here, we can see that it has a little dent in it, and then it goes here. And notice it doesn't quite come out to this petal. It kind of stops just before it and comes down and connects further down. So now looking at the next petal here at the back, I can see that it starts about halfway into this one. And again, I can kind of look at the center line, and that helps me see it's sort of in closer to the center, left of center, I guess you could say, of this distance here, the center here to here. So my eye is making those comparisons and looking to see where is center, how far is it from it, is it a lot higher? No, it's just a little bit higher. I can take it up. There's a little bump just as it reaches here. And now it has a little curl, and then it comes down to there. Now, if I don't quite like what I did here, I can now go back and just put that curve on it there and put that there. And now I can do this last petal. Now, this last petal isn't actually straight, even though my line is straight. It actually has a little bit of a dip here, and it dips away from that line. And it dips here, and then it goes up to this height, and then it comes down. And look where it's going to come is right in there. Okay, so now I can go back and tidy it up if I want to tidy it up, change anything, smooth an edge off. We've got this little thing happening here, and then we've also have this happening here, and that kind of helps me look at this shape here, and I can see that this shape is really more like that. So do you notice how the difference, now I'm drawing this shape, which is in fact the negative shape, and it's much easier to see what this looks like than it was when I was drawing the positive shape of the petal. So you'll find as you're drawing that you'll go back and forth from negative to positive as you work your way through the drawing. Now I can put in the little stem at the bottom here. And again, how big is this little stem? Well, I take a look at the flower itself and I see that if I look at this distance here, it's very similar to what this distance would be. And so that gives me a sense of the size. And that's what you're doing. Once each new thing you add to the drawing, you want to go back and compare it to see what makes sense. So now how big should the stem be? Again, I take a look and I can see the stem. I look at the small things here, and the stem is quite small compared to this distance. It's more like what's happening here. And if I look at this distance here, it looks more in line with that in terms of size, a little bit smaller than that. And of course, it's never make your stems perfectly straight. They don't look like real flowers if they are. So there is my poppy itself. What would I do with the leaves? How big are they? Exactly the same kind of comparisons would happen. So if I take a look at the leaf that's showing here at the bottom, I can see that I'm going to put it a little bit lower, that it has these kind of shapes to it. And when I look and see how wide this section is, it's a little bit wider than the stem. So that helps me keep it into proportion. It kind of comes across here. I can see that this goes up here and carries on out there. So when I compare the sizes here, and compare them to the thickness of the stem, I can see that they are in proportion. So those are the things that I want to watch for as I'm drawing my poppy, in order to get the perspective of the poppy itself to make sense. In a sense, what you're really doing is training your eye to see, to look for these details and to make these connections. So I'm going to continue on my drawing and add another flower and more leaves. All the time I'm continuing to compare each new line and shape to the existing ones to make sure they are the right size. When I add the leaves and the second flower, I'm also considering which plane they are on. A flower behind would be smaller than the main one, just as the leaves in the back would be smaller. Leaves and flowers in the front would be larger. Start your own conversation in your drawing. Is it longer? Shorter? How much longer? A lot? A little? A half? A quarter? Is it near the center? Same height as something else? Looking for these relationships in your drawing process will allow you to take any reference and draw it with the correct perspective. Now, as you can see, I finished working on my poppies. I took a look at the leaves. This leaf here, I wasn't in the picture, but I borrowed it from over here and moved it here as well. And again, looking at the size, making a comparison, how thick are the leaves compared to the stems, how thick are the stems compared to things on the flowers. All of that gives me proportion and helps me give the whole plant in perspective. So now I did it in pen and ink here just so that you could have a better look, and because I like to work with ink and watercolor, so I think I'm probably going to do a little bit of watercolor with it as well. So I hope you had fun. If you'd like a copy of the poppies so that you can try them yourself, there is in the information below, you'll find a link to a reference sheet, a free reference sheet if you'd like to try drawing this poppy. Look forward to drawing with you again. Have a good day. Wendy teaches outdoor sketching classes in the summer, and she teaches in her studio and online throughout the year. Wendy produces original work in pencil and in watercolor. She completes commission work, particularly pet portraits, and produces cards and prints from some of her work.